Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to LA Sessions, and today we're going to be doing first episode of our spinoff. This will be our Pasadena Therapy spinoff show, which I'm joined today by my business partner Herman Ortiz, who's also a licensed marriage family therapist. We founded our practice last year, actually, and we got a nice, beautiful physical office in Pasadena. We started it because we've known each other for almost 20 years, and we saw that there was definitely a need in the private sector for therapy, particularly for men's issues. And so I just want Herman to introduce himself. Welcome, man.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name's Herman Ortiz. I'm a licensed therapist. Been working in the mental health field for 20 plus years. And as Brian said, we have found a need for men and have a office in Pasadena to try and assist people get over some life issues.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's funny because I think you and I, man, we've started our careers, pretty close to each other and all that. And we started working alongside like foster kids, group home kids, the homeless adult population, homeless teen population, probation, man, you name it, right? And
Right.
then I think you and I both, in all of that, we saw like there's a need, especially in California, I would say, because like for people who don't know, uh, the the breakdown for therapists in this state is something to the effect of like 74.9, I think, percent of practicing therapists are female, and then the remainder are male. And with no disrespect to female clinicians, but the reality is, um, men's issues I think kind of get forgotten because there's this idea that they're not priority, and or this idea that men just don't go to therapy or whatever the case may be. But I think you and I knew different, right? There's a need for strong, virtuous men out there, and there are some men out there that just, like you said, man, they need to get over some of the stuff in their life so they could be those strong, virtuous men. Has that been your view as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of the men are having issues um, and it seems like right now we're at a time where it could be difficult to be a man if you don't have the right tools or the right mindset. I mean, we kind of have a culture that's attacking men in a way, and I think some men actually believe it, and I think they're scared to be who they are, and they don't really know how to interact at times because there's a culture that's been built that we're being blamed for a lot of things, and some of them has some valid reasons, and some of them does not. So, it's important for us to be able to have a space for men to just be themselves and say what they need, and not be judged by what they're saying, but understood.
Yeah. Yeah, I always found that um, with the internet, it's funny because uh, we have this device now called a computer or a phone that has the recorded knowledge of all of humankind, yet it's somehow made humanity stupider. And I think a lot of men right now, they have access to so much information, but some of them just don't take it, right? They, like you said, like they feel like there's like the sense of they don't belong, or they're made to feel like they don't belong sometimes. And are there some men who really, really need to make improvements in their life? I would say yes, and I know we're definitely going to take a dive into that later, because let's be real, there's examples of men who have inherently lower value and some who have higher value. But it's not to say that if you are lower value, you can't develop traits and qualities that make you higher value. And it's not to say that if you're a higher value man, you can't descend into low value territory. And so, but I do think that one thing that men in general had to get over since God forever is the stigma, right? With mental
Yeah,
health, this idea that why would I go to a therapist? I'm not crazy,
right.
right? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially I'm gonna say with Hispanic men, men of color specifically. I think that's something I deal with a lot because there is a stigma and they don't want people to know, and it's kind of like this thing they're doing on the side where they gotta hide or not mention it. So it's still definitely there. I think it's getting better for sure, but there's still not people who are comfortable talking about it at work or in their social settings or with their family, saying, "Hey, I'm in therapy. I'm working on myself," because it's viewed as a stereotype of weakness.
Hmm.
If you go see a therapist, is viewed that way for many, and I think that's been the idea or the thoughts for many years. But I think as we've evolved, and have more time and more understanding of one another, it's not that. It's having that area to vent, having that opportunity to talk to someone who can understand you. And it's important for us to continue our work so that we can have that space for them to have that comfort and be able to come in, talk to us or other therapists, and say, "Hey, this is what's going on. These are my challenges. I don't understand why I'm feeling this way," or things in that nature.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about the word comfort right there. Comfort comes a lot from like not being judged and basically just the feeling that they belong. And I've often found that the initial session there's a little bit of discomfort sometimes. My clients will kind of be like on their toes a little bit. And then I try my best to let them know that, no, man, you're not going to be judged. And actually, for those listening, you should really, really check out our website, Pasadena-therapy.com. You'll see right away that we really cater to men's issues. And it's not to say we only work with men, but our specialty is in men's issues, whether it be mental health support. We do offer life coaching, again, for those who maybe uh, are thinking they don't want therapy in the traditional sense, but they want life coaching. We'll do consultations and all that in person or through telehealth. But yeah, I try to put them at ease and just to let them know, like, look, they can relax. Because sometimes, and then I get the opposite where someone comes in just, chest out, going like, look, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to change. And I was like, hey, man, I ain't asking you to change. Cool.
Right.
You want to come in like Maverick and Top Gun? Like you're like you own the world, you own the skies and everything. All good, man. We're here to maximize your strengths. And if you don't think that like that machismo, if, for example, is a weakness, is something you want to work on, that's all good. We're not here to judge. Now, I don't know if other clinicians would feel that way, just judge basing on how. I don't know about you, man. The first time I said we do therapy for men, I'm not going to name names, but I'll just say a lot of colleagues were just like, "Oh, so you're like Andrew Tate," and I'm like, "Man, that ain't even a therapist. What the hell are you talking about?" But if we did that with them, it would be like, "Oh, you can't say that, right?"
Right, right. I mean, we're not specifically um, just designed to work with men. I have female clients that I work with, and they've stated to me, "Hey, I've been in therapy in the past, and I prefer to come to you." And like I said, it's not because it might be my style of how I address certain issues because I'm very clear and direct, and I kind of don't go around the bush to, "Hey, let's figure, you're having these problems, and this could be male or female, and you keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results." And sometimes we have to address that right away and get them to see, "Hey, there's going to be some changes that have to be made for you to get better, heal."
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, definitely, I think, like I said, we're not limited to just men, but I think women in general, and this is just my personal experience, have feel they get more benefit from seeing a male therapist.
Yeah, and it should be noted that I know you and I, one thing we have in common for sure, other than our kind of direction, is both of us use solution focused therapy a lot.
Exactly.
And particularly at times, like solution focused brief therapy, because I know we've had clients that will come in and they swear they're going to be in therapy for like years, but
Yep.
they don't even make it to a year because they're just like, oh man, thank you so much. I really learned a lot of stuff. I want to try to do it on my own, and they're just like so energized. The guy that walks out in the last session is so totally different than the guy that walked in the first time, and first of all, that makes me happy because I don't like ethically, I don't like to hold on to a client for no freaking reason, and I don't, I'm just saying, because sometimes, man, you and I have heard from some of our colleagues where they will have clients for like over 5 years, man, or something, right? And I'm just like, damn, dude, you're just taking money at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an exaggeration, but like, not really.
No, yeah. Recently, I think I was having a discussion with a colleague and somebody, and they mentioned treatment, mental health treatment for 8 years straight with the same person. So I was like, wow, you know, that's significant. That's a lot of time. And like I don't want to discredit that. I want to, if they feel comfortable and they think it, and they feel it's working for them, cool. And by all means, continue that. But yeah, I still um, don't have clients in that situation where I've seen them for years. It's more like a short term basis, and we always leave the door open. Hey, if you feel like things aren't don't go your way once we stop seeing each other, come back. If you
Yeah,
feel like because it's not like you need me in your life for the rest of your life. Like you might need me in your life during critical moments when you're having maybe a crisis situation in your
yeah,
home, in your job, just in your personal life. So, um, we have that option where, hey, just give me a ring, and it happens. I've had a client who, we stopped seeing each other for months, and then, felt the need to reach out to me again and start seeing me, not as often, but he needed someone to have some discussions with.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but geez, God, man, 8 years, that's longer than the average American marriage, man. That means you spend more, this person spent more time with their therapist than like their significant other, man. That's wild. And it's, geez, I don't know, man. That to me is just crazy. Like at some point, look, man, I don't like to directly criticize my peers and all that, but the reality is, dude, you and I did start our practice and all that because we thought we could do a better than what's out there. Look, with all due respect to a lot of the therapists that we know, a lot of our colleagues, and a lot of them are great, by the way. Um, but there are some we've encountered where we're just like, yeah, I think I'm gonna kind of label you under part of the problem in some cases. Uh, you know, we were in situations, for example, where like you've said it, I've said it before, where we kind of take a client who had therapy already. And the one thing you could always count on therapists to be truthful about is how shitty their past therapist was. They'll be very honest about that. And the reality is they'll even say some of the positive things, but they'll be very truthful about that. And that's their truth. Sometimes it's different. Let's be real. Maybe that therapist did the best of their ability with the training they had, but it wasn't a good fit. And so much of good therapy is good fit, right? That's why, look, I don't know about you, but I've gotten some consultations and I've referred out because I'll tell them flat out, like, this is where my therapy is directed towards. This is my areas of strength. It seems like this is what you need. Am I the person you want, or do you feel like I can refer you to? And then I'll describe maybe a peer and their strengths. I can refer you to them. They're like, yeah, you know what? That sounds good. I need something more like that, right? And then there's no harm. I'm just like, okay, that's great. And they usually leave happy.
Yeah. I think I've had similar experiences where, because I tell them what the style and what treatment's going to look like with me and how we're going to address issues. And um, I have that discussion from the beginning, that way when our first session ends, they're clear, hey, this is this a person I want to continue seeing. I've had the same situations where they're like, you know what, maybe I need somebody different. I'm like, fine, here's some other people. There's other people you can go to. Here's some colleagues. And, it ends well. It's not like, you know, it's just a matter of the right fit, right? And some people feel comfortable. They're like, yeah, when do I sign up? Hey, give me the next session, date and
Hmm.
time. And, I'm going to continue with this. So, yeah, it's all about the fit. It's all about making sure you're comfortable and you're able to have this conversation because if you have that comfort level, you're going to be okay when you have to address the difficult things that are going on. There's a lot of trauma sometimes that are involved with our clients that they need that comfort space. And if they're the type of person who needs a lot of the nurturing and a lot of this, a lot of that, it's important to have the right person, and some people like to be talk to directly and like things to be pointed out,
Hmm.
and say, hey, this is what's going on. So yeah, it's all about the fit. It's all about the fit, and all, the relationship. And one thing I talk about is in conversations is intimacy, because you're going to be talking with someone, and there's going to be intimate moments. I'm not talking about sexual intimacy, but I'm talking about relationship intimacy, where there's going to be some hard discussions, some heavy duty stuff. So if you don't have that comfort level of intimacy with the person you're talking to, then it might not work for you.
No, I agree, man. I agree. And I mean, yeah, it's like that whole, I mean, it's statistically been shown that the biggest factor in good therapy and good outcomes is relationship with therapists, whether there's that client therapist connection. I mean, the truth is modalities are modalities, and the real the reality is the modalities are only as good as the practitioner executes, right? And so in that sense, yeah, the interpersonal skills of the clinician are so important. And unfortunately, um, that's something that the client sometimes doesn't know to look for, and so they kind of trust the field. They'll be like, oh well, my insurance network gave me these lists of therapists to call because they're a network, and then they'll call them, and then they'll just kind of assume, well, if I was referred to you, you must be pretty good.
Yes.
And it's like in a perfect world, that'd be the case. Just like you trust your mechanic to fix your car, but if you realize, damn it, every time I come in for an oil change, something's wrong with my Toyota. My Toyota, really, the car never breaks down, right?
Yeah.
Then you start to think maybe this guy is probably not on the level, right? And I feel bad for some of these people, and that's why it's funny because in our fields, I remember early on, I used to hear about therapists complaining about like, oh well, this client has been known to shop for a therapist, and like it was a bad thing. And
Yeah.
then I just came to realize in private practice, I'm like, no, you're on the free market. That's what you're supposed to do. I mean, that's where I find like, um, if I think it is important to like read people's Psychology Today profiles, for example. And you and I are both listed, by the way. Um, However, I feel bad for clients who don't know how to kind of read between the lines. Like you and I, man, we joke sometimes about some of these people we know that, or sometimes we don't. We just see the profiles, but like, it's like, damn, man, you look at the profile, it's like, wow, fool, you specialize in everything, right? You do every modality known to man. You specialize in working with every single demographic ever,
Right.
and it's like that's so wrong. Ethically, it's so wrong to do that, man.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we can address many issues, as we're in treatment, because I don't want to say that we're just locked in one area. But yeah, I mean, I don't consider myself an expert on every topic, and I don't. There are some things that I feel very comfortable, that we do with my clients, that we address like a lot of the men issues. One of them is, I'm gonna say, is confidence. A lot of our men that I work with, and um, have these confidence issues that we have to work through. And it's something that I want to say I've gotten very comfortable working with men to, being able to understand what's going on and how to overcome it, because it's something that they need a lot of practice in, and it takes a lot of different strategies, interventions, for them to make changes in their approach, how they deal with people. So yeah, but if you had someone coming to me, with maybe topics that I'm not 100% in, yeah, I would maybe say, hey, you need to go see a different therapist. That may be, I'll give you an example. If I get to a client that's in severe uh, need of maybe going through schizophrenia and things like that, I would probably not be the best therapist for that person, because
Well, yeah, and it should be noted too. I mean, something that I think you and I have always done a pretty good job of is like we consult a lot, right? Just to stay sharp, and I think that's something that all clinicians in private should, because when you work for an agency, sometimes you have a supervisor, you have mandatory supervisions, you consult with your supervisor before your license and all that. But when you get your license, one of the things they don't always tell you is, well, you're on your own now.
yeah,
But on your own also means being able to find colleagues and people that they can consult with. And I mean, the truth is, I mean, you and I have we've consulted so much that, like, I mean, that's like half of my my tax write-offs for food right there, just lunches and dinners to consult about
Yeah.
the cases, about getting a second opinion, which I think is really important to do, to rule certain things out, try new things. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you're mentioning about confidence issues with some of the men you work with. And you know I remember, okay, so like for me, I always remember that early therapy pioneer Alfred Adler, his idea was that there's only three things that people go to therapy for with their life tasks. It's mastering work tasks, mastering friendship tasks, and mastering love tasks. Now, in my experience, I haven't had anybody come in for friendship, but it always comes down to uh, work and love. How do
Yeah.
I make more money? How do I meet the right woman? It's usually what it comes down to, man. Yeah, they'll come in and they'll say something like, "Well, I'm going through some stress in life and all that," but you and I are pretty good at peeling through the layers and just going like, "What is the core need
Right.
here? What is the root of why you're in this therapy room?" Always comes down to one of those two,
Right.
man. I need money. I need women. That's
Yeah.
it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a key factor, right? That a lot of men are facing because in our society, men, quote unquote, need to be successful, right? We need
Yeah.
to be able to provide. There's still expectations of us that traditionally have been there that are not going to go away.
Mhm.
So yes, being financially independent is a one key one that a lot of our clients come to, and definitely the relationship issues. And some of our men out there are not as confident as maybe in the past of being in relationships, of proposing, of marrying, understanding what it is. Because, like I said, out there's a lot of different narratives for men of what it is that's needed of them. And I think that's where I mentioned earlier a lot of confusion. We know our men are confused on what the expectation. Do I need to be an alpha male and this macho type of a person, or do I need to be this man who's very understanding, protective, financially available to my spouse, to my partner, be good with the kids. I mean, there's just so many different things that are out there, and it creates confusion sometimes.
Yeah, man. I mean, I always tell my clients that look, the hard truth is that you have to work harder at getting women than your father did and your grandfather did, and every male in your line. Because in the past, if you were a good provider, you know, generally 80% of the time, that was pretty good. And when I say provider, I don't even necessarily mean like you gotta be rich, like a railroad tycoon or something like that. No, it's like think of it like back in the old days, like man, let's say you worked in a factory, you made a good living and all that. But remember, that was a job that you could own a home, you could have one car, like two kids, three kids, whatever, and the wife didn't have to work. So those were
Right.
the expectations, right? Now, granted, you had to go to war and like that, which this
Yeah.
generation is not ready for. Um, but like, yeah, maybe like World of Warcraft. But now with money and the economy being what it is, and just the needs of women have changed because ever since the sexual revolution, and we don't have to go into a deep dive on that in this episode, that'd be way too long. But like the needs of women have changed as their roles have changed, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that's just how progression goes. And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of men who were taught how to be men by their fathers today are like, dude, Pop, you didn't teach me this and this and that, because now, okay, you taught me to be a provider. Great. You taught me how to like defend a woman's honor and all that. Awesome. You didn't teach me how to be a counselor. You didn't teach me how to be an entertainer. You didn't teach me to be a cook. You didn't teach me to be like a tour guide, because how many men can relate where it's like you ask them, hey, where do you want to eat? I don't know, where do you want to eat? That man, if you're a guy, you're not decisive. You can't say, let's go here,
Yeah.
man. Then you're not decisive. You can say, yeah, you gotta be a tour guide. That's
Yeah.
why I tell people, I'm like, man, you better have your go-to list of places to go on every date, man, because otherwise you're gonna look like you have no clue. You're not decisive. You're not direct. And so yeah, people have to do all this stuff, and they're not used to it.
Yeah. I think you make a perfect point. I think my father's generation was way different than my generation, and what my kids' generation. We're kind of stuck in this middle ground where we're still able to use technology, but
Yeah.
then we still have some of our fathers, mothers role expectations, but then we live in a different time where those expectations are not the same. And I'll give an example. You know, this didn't exist back 50 years ago as much as it does now. This whole 50-50 situation with couples, whether they're married, whether they're not, whether they're just living together. There's this whole 50-50, and like I said, that kind of seems to be the norm, or
Yeah.
what people are trying out, which is fine. If that works, if you guys believe that half the rent, half the bills, everyone just goes right down the middle, and then everyone keeps whatever's left to themselves, that's fine. But what I have found is, with the men I've worked with, is it, it it creates a problem when it comes to who's gonna make a decisive choice. Just like you shared, just going out to eat. It comes to a situation like, well, where are we going? Where do you want to go? And it's like, wherever you want to go. So yeah, sometimes women will take the lead and be like, hey, this is how we're gonna do it, and then men get comfortable with that. So then when they're asked, hey, I need you to take the lead, men aren't don't have that confidence anymore to be like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. This is the plan. And like I said, if situations like that work for people, it's fine. But like I said, there's a lot of, like you mentioned, the roles have been shifted, and it creates a lot of confusion sometimes. And that's the term I'm gonna stick to, because a lot of our men are confused
Yep.
with how to act, with how to behave, with how to um, even use their finances. So yeah, I think, like you said, our fathers had it a little bit easier than we do now. And not that it's a bad thing. It's just something that we got to adjust and kind of get used to and prepare. And a lot of the men out there right now are in that area where they don't know which way to go or what to do.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Like you mentioned, okay, so there's gonna be certain exceptions, right? Because we're in this era of change ever since like the 60s, I think, with the sexual revolution. And so the truth is, to young people, that seems like a long time ago, but the reality is it ain't that long. I mean, revolutions take time. And there's still a lot of carryover because there's for all of the stuff that makes the news, and you see these men who are just in perpetual victimhood. The men online in the black pill community, which I'm like, I don't think that's a good thing at all because they're not trying to make improvements. They just want things to return to normal. But the things they're not doing anything to, like in terms of normalcy, like you're saying, like this, like back in the day, like say you had to be a provider. Well, these guys aren't even providers, but they just want women to fall into the lap. That doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Self improvement is key. And look, there are going to be outliers, for example, but they just happen to be the loudest ones. Like, for example, like I caution men in my practice, like particularly my life coaching areas, where they want to know, like, just give me the hard truth, man, about like pair bonding, like, because I tell them, man, I read a lot, man. I read a lot of studies. That practice never left me when I left grad school and all that. And so part of our field, I think we owe it to people to let them know, like, okay, here's what the data says. This is established data. It's not my opinion. And the reality is, things that don't go out of style on a large enough time scale is men do have to be providers, and that's what I tell them. You got to be providers. You got to be good communicators. In the past, that wasn't the case, but now it is. You got to be a problem solver, and generally, you got to be competent in the bedroom. You got to, these are just evolutionary things, they're societal things. That's just how it is. The data backs me up on that. In surveys with women, it's particularly with women that hold traits that men universally want, like good looks, agreeability, just emotional intelligence, and just awareness in general. What do they say they want? They don't really look at like men who are like short or fat or skinny. They worry about their looks so much. The truth is, women don't put a premium on that. Men, we put a premium on that, like reproductive things, like
Right.
looks and things like that. Women look for a man who has the makings of long-term success,
Right.
status, money, it just the ability to solve problems, provide for family, and just long-term thinking. That's really what the data supports. And a lot of men, I think, are intimidated by that because they might think, well, I don't have money right now. I only make like 20 an hour or something like that, but it's like, but your problem is you're judging yourself where you are right this moment. You
Right.
have to look ahead, like what is my potential? What is my ceiling? And am I willing to put in the work?
Right.
And sometimes men won't. And
Yeah.
then they want a 10, but objectively they're like a 4. And that doesn't
Exactly.
work.
Exactly. I agree with you in those points. I think some of the men that don't can't find that internal drive to push themselves more to what's needed out there, because like you said, if you are looking at at or falling in love with, I don't know, a doctor, and you're not where you need to be or close, you gotta at least be in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But if you're like not even in the neighborhood of trying to get
Not even in the right country.
exactly, and that doesn't mean you can't get to a certain level of financial independence, of educational, um, but there's got to be a lot of work, and there's got to find, sometimes I work with clients who that's what we identify, help them identify what are you good at, let's view the things that you enjoy, let's see how you can make a career in something you're really going to be
Yeah.
in peace with, that you're not going to be complaining about, because I also don't want to set men up where they're unhappy with what they chose as a career,
Hmm.
with who they chose as where to live. I mean, it's all about making sure and taking um, some time to make decisions, because men are impulsive, and
Yeah.
sometimes men jump into things without really thinking. And I think that's where we come in and help these guys out, because we're able to show them the pros and cons, right? Hey, if you make this decision, this is, it might look like this or it might look like this. Which one is it
Yeah.
that you want? So it's all about getting them to understand. And like I said, there's going to be some men, unfortunately, that just don't have that drive, and or are choosing to go different fields, or want to rather stay and play video games.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I If they're happy in that way, then go ahead, dock
Yeah.
yourself out. But then you can't be complaining about
No,
why
no,
this and that.
no, because you're not trying to solve problems. And the truth is, um, sometimes I found another quality that women like is a man that's passionate about what he does, but and he may be passionate about her too, but
Yeah,
he doesn't make her the center of his universe. That's how you go broke, because I strongly believe that you're a strong man who has strong earning potential. You have strong value on the dating marketplace. You can't see, it's like paradoxical. They think they have to make women the goal. No, women are the thing that, you can impress, you can attain on your road to being your best self. And so let's say you're a guy who's, I don't know, like let's say you've got an average job because maybe you don't have a college degree, and that's fine, right? Maybe you're in a job that it's just a placeholder because maybe you're in school or maybe you're taking some certification courses to be like something like a welder, which is a great career, by the way. Um, but on this, also on the side, you do something like you play the stock market. And
yeah,
look, this is, I'm not telling any stories out of school, man. You and I, we put a lot of time and effort, years and years back, into knowing when we realized we got to have something productive to do on the side. Because I think you and I, man, we're too old for video games. We don't do that stuff, man. We want to do something productive with our time and make it work for us. I think one of the pivotal changes in for you and me in our professional lives is when we learned that phrase about making money while you're sleeping,
yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly.
And doing so has afforded us a lot of luxuries, and I'll just say that some peers of ours don't have because they made it all about just the singular purpose of just working in psychology and seeing clients, which is great, by the way. We love working with our clients, but we have to do something on the side. And it can't just be dedicated to women alone. It
Right,
has to be other things that increases our status and stuff like that, that keeps our mind mentally stimulated. Because let's be real, even discount psychology, the psychology field, any job at all. If all you do is focus on that 24/7, you're gonna work your way into an ulcer. It ain't gonna work, man. And so we happened to stumble upon something that we had an aptitude for. We had peers that we could consult with, and it was productive for us. And you know what? Every time we say it to people, they're all impressed, right? I just don't like
Yeah,
giving them free advice, though.
yeah. Like I said, I think the educational literacy is important for people, and that's a big topic. And I do have a disclaimer where I'm not a financial advisor, and but I'm gonna help them see that there's options for people. Like I'll give you an example. Some men that work two jobs, I'm like, I have to help them distinguish like where's that money going? Where's that,
Yeah.
is the second job for what? And I start trying to get them to think, hey, maybe we need to look for a job that's gonna pay you the same. What is it that you do? Maybe there's a different job market. There's maybe a skill that you have that can pay you more. And also, I get it, having multiple streams of income for men are important for everyone, women too.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's. But I think sometimes it's like, what are you gonna do with it? Because you could have two, three jobs and have money coming in, but if you're just going to a club, spending it, and really not doing much with it, then that becomes a problem. If you're just living the day to day in the moment and you're not planning for the future, that's where you're gonna wear your stuff out. You're gonna be 40, looking like you're 60 with zero money in the bank, even though
Yeah.
you work twice as hard and as much as the other guy. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's important to kind of know what you're going to do with your money. I think it's a big factor for men.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's a big factor for women when they consider which man to pick, right?
Yes.
Like, the reality is, one life lesson I had to learn when I was very young, when I was in undergrad, was I was like thinking to myself, man, how come I'm not getting the ladies, man? Like, because but my thing was I was trying to get women my same age, like in the same
Yeah,
class
yeah,
bracket as me,
yeah,
but they were all dating like older dudes, you know. And I remember one time I'm like wondering that, and then the girl's boyfriend pulls up in a Benz, and I'm just like, dude, dude, I take the bus, man, right?
yeah,
I was like, dude, I got my Metro pass, and
yeah,
damn, man, I'm just like, I'm just wearing my Chuck Taylors, my JanSport backpack. This guy's rolling around in a black E-Class. I was like, dude, but I was thinking the wrong way. I was thinking of what's so good about him, but I should have been thinking, man, that guy's laying the blueprint for me. He's giving me
yeah.
the cheat code in life, and I should take it, right? Someone gives you the strategy to win in life, you have to take it, not be bitter about it. And that's just been my experience ever since, man.
Yeah, I think I had similar experiences, where, starting from high school, and in college, it's like when we're in school, we're not making money. We're not
Yeah.
at a place, we're barely trying to make ends meet. And the attractive women, most of them had someone that maybe was a senior or had just finished and started and had that job and had that car and had started to have some success, right? And you get stuck competing against that, but it does open your eyes. Like the way I saw it is like, what do I have to do
Yep.
to become that person? Like what did they do? Or instead of saying, man, look at the car here, it's like, what's he do for a living?
Yeah.
What do you do for a living? What Okay, how'd you do it? And if they're cool to answer questions, even better. But it's seeing the steps. And obviously we're not talking about billionaires kids and people who
Right.
just money. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people who we can emulate, who we can see that took some steps to becoming to get to a good place
Yeah.
financially.
Yes.
um,
These made men, not the ones who inherited money.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and look, no disrespect to men who inherited money, as long as they made something with it, right?
Yeah,
Like if you inherited a couple thousand, like maybe 100,000, but you became a billionaire.
yeah, oh yeah.
Listen, that's not easy, man. I don't care who you are, that's not easy. Okay, and so people, got to understand, like when people can create like exponential wealth. That's freaking great. But yeah, but just sometimes even like we're using some extreme examples, but like the reality is like if you're a guy, you're a success if you love your job. You can be just a good enough provider, because I mean, I think sometimes we use some extremes. Let's be real. Like we're talking about like these women who get with men, but there are some extremes like those sugar babies where they're like, nope. And actually, there's other short term studies. I mean, once again, I don't just pull this shit out of my ass. There are studies to show that women who have like who grade lower in academic achievement and things like that, they tend to want like good looking men who have a lot of money, but they see them as like this short term thing, like fix my problems, pay my rent, pay for my kids' clothing and school supplies and all that. But the
Right.
problem is those don't last long because they're seen as these short term band-aid solutions, where smarter or educated women who have score high in emotional intelligence and things like that, they look long term. And that's why women like that tend to be with men that are strong long term providers, and can, because there's more than just what, just take care of me, because I'm young and I've got looks and all that.
Right. So, I know we're talking a lot about finances, and it's important. And like I said, for men, what I tell them is like, if you put yourself in a good place financially, you're going to have options. You're not going to have much to worry about. You're going to be able to pick and choose where you want to go, who you want next to you, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So, which is important. But, it's a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of hard work to become one of those guys, to
Yeah.
become the guy that you're going to be able to take care of a family, a mortgage here in California. Let's be real with it. Plus the cars, plus, paying for childcare and all that. If you choose to, it's very expensive. So I see how men are a little more scared to commit now. But in case any women come to our podcast and watch, I don't want them to think, hey, this is, you guys are bashing women, or you think we're all
No.
about. It's not that. I want to make that clear. It's about us trying to help men become the better version of themselves.
Right.
And in reality, if they're able to provide to a family, they need to be in a good place. And I'm not talking about just college guys. There's
Hmm.
plenty of trades out there. I
Hell
know
yeah.
electricians that are multimillionaires
Yeah.
that I grew up with that have their own business and they do very well. Plumbers, mechanics. I mean, there's just the guys that install ACs. I mean, there's tons of trades now that make you a lot of money and make you more money than going to college.
Yeah.
So that is discussions that I do have, but also in the other, if we want to see the other side of things is when men end up in an unbalanced relationship where maybe the woman is the provider, or maybe she's the one who's educated, maybe she's the one who has all these things going for her, and the guy is kind of stuck. Usually those relationships suffer a lot because the
Yeah.
guy's struggling all the time. He doesn't know how to get out of it and put their relationship in a strain that is very difficult.
Yeah. No, I mean, it goes back to something you said earlier, and something I think that you and I both really, really try to instill in our clients is that internal locus of control. Because the example you just gave is a prime example of an external locus of control. A man who, he relies on the woman, he relies on other external factors. But the men like that also blame everything for their troubles. But look, it's a known thing that, for example, with anxiety. Anxiety is caused by a number of things, but at the core is this lack of control. Like whether you have this fear of abandonment, identity, meaning, purpose, fear of death, you don't have control in your life. An anxiety attack is literally like this little boom, your mind's racing, your heart's racing. You have no control. You need to get that control back. And I think for a lot of men, like let's take the example you gave of like electricians, plumbers, and all that. I guarantee you, the ones you mentioned that are like millionaires and all that, you know what they did? They mastered their trade. And at some point, they're like, there's something else I have to do. I have to learn entrepreneurship. I bet you
Exactly.
some of those guys never even worked on a toilet main in the last 10 years. But they got other men that they send out in the field to do it, right? They haven't touched any wiring for like a decade, but they got a whole legion of employees that do it.
Yeah.
There's a big difference there. And those are the men that should be applauded. They
Mhm.
solve problems, they provide. I mean, and the thing is, you mentioned about like women. We're not bashing women. I mean, we may say funny shit from time to time, but the reality is, we want to build and help build better men. And who
Yeah.
benefits from that? It ain't
Yeah.
us.
I mean,
It's the
with
women out there. It's the eights, the nines, the tens who are
right.
like who are always saying, we used to joke about those women and say like, "Oh, where are all the good men?" Well, we're trying to help build them for you. Shit, you know
We're gonna get them out of the friend zone for you. We're gonna make.
exactly the place you left them. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so and at the same time, we have to be fair. We also help men to identify women that could be complementary to them, not specifically women, but traits, traits that could be that could help them in finding that level of happiness. And and I'm not talking about like personality stuff, because that's, come on, that's dependent on the person. Some women like, or I mean, some men like funny women, some women like more serious women. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like those green flags out there, like agreeableness, right? Does she encourage you to do better, right? Does she, like, if you're a guy who wants kids, is she good mommy material, right? Can she multitask and like be a great wife, but also be a great mother? Because that's not the same. Okay.
Right, and I think, like I said, it's back going to those roles, right? That we discussed earlier of those traditional roles. I mean, they have changed. So, unfortunately, women here in the U.S., what are a lot of men doing? They're going overseas. They're marrying overseas,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, um, because they're looking for that traditional woman. And there's some here. Don't get me wrong, and just that there's men. Some men are still attracted to that idea
Yeah.
of the past of what things used to be like. So they that's kind of what they do. They go out and find kind of what they feel they need, and I can't blame them. I can't shame them. That's their personal choice.
Those passport bros.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Man, I see why they do that, but I also think, did they not listen to Eddie Murphy in the '80s? That it was Delirious, I think it was, where he talked about going. He's like tired of these women who just want to take half his money because he's rich. Or he wants to go to Africa, find with that bit about finding a lady riding a zebra, bring her here because she has no idea about all that. And then what's the moral of the story? She comes here, becomes an American woman, and then suddenly she wants half his stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the problem these passport bros don't understand. And I think the problem is they're living in the past because, listen, I love, like, my parents' home country in Vietnam. I've been back there 3 times, and now it's a little bit different than the first time I went. There's a lot of sugar babies out there because people don't understand. See, these Western men, like you're talking about, they go to like Eastern countries to find like, I want a subservient wife. Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
she'll act subservient because she knows
Yeah.
that's what will get her through the door.
Yeah.
I got bad news for you, pal. If you think that you're gonna bring her here, find me a young, beautiful ethnic girl from another country who comes to America because she wants to be average. Like she just wants to live in the burbs in a tiny apartment, right?
Yeah.
Go into the local Aldi. No, 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 no. She wants to roll around in a Benz. She wants to go experience like everything America has to offer. They go off of stereotypes in
Yeah.
America. They think like, oh, you live in California. They think you live like in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Oh, you live in New York. They think you live in Manhattan, right? You're in Florida. You think oh, you're in Miami, and then it's like, no, I'm in Fort Myers. It's like, wait, what? It's like, no, I live in Dayton, Ohio, right? It's like, wait, what? And they go there, and now they feel like they're in a cage, and so that's the thing. And so God bless you if you think you can embark on this quest and bring back a woman that you think embodies traditional wholesome values. But you have to ask yourself though, if you were a man that had to flee this country to do all that stuff, are you a man of high value? You have to ask yourself and look in the mirror and ask yourself that as well. Do you have things they want? And so that's a hard question for some guys to answer, though.
Yes, for sure. I mean, I think, when they leave, like you said, the passport bros, sometimes they're hiding something, or they just know they can't.
Mm-hmm.
They just can't compete in this market, and it's not because they're just not putting in the work, or sometimes they think it's gonna be easy. Like, as you said, I'm gonna go get someone, have kids, and we're just gonna live like my grandfather did. And
Yeah.
like, it's not the case. With technology, and like you said, people with all this media and all these influencers, yeah, they want a beach house. They think they're gonna live by the ocean, and you're gonna go Disneyland twice a week, and go to these fancy hotels, and it that's what some women expect.
Yeah,
If you're gonna bring them here as traditional women, then you better be a provider. But the way they see you as a provider
yeah.
is a little extreme.
Man, yeah, you're right, man. They come here thinking they live by the beach, by the ocean. Man, the closest they're gonna get is the fact that they find out that the man is underwater on all of his payments and everything. No,
Exactly.
yeah, it's people sometimes like it's there's a difference between living in this fantasy land and setting high expectations.
Right.
The greatest achievers in human history are the ones who set high benchmarks, high goals that other people probably thought were crazy, but they weren't crazy. They were achievable, just not achievable by the average person. It's only achievable by extraordinary people. Because I truly believe that there are some people, man, and we've seen them in our line of work that are the only way for me to describe it is they have extraordinary grit and determination. I mentioned earlier for our guests here, like you and I work with like countless foster kids, group home kids, some of which have gone on to do great things,
Yes.
have great careers, be motivation for other kids that are going through similar stuff. They have extraordinary skills because they started two steps behind through no fault of their own. Their parents let them down, right? Maybe their parents were in a hard time and they just weren't in a place to be good parents, right? So they gave up their rights. But these kids grew up to be strong men and women who accomplished great things. They'll give their testimonial, you're right. But then that's what I mean. You have people who have displayed extraordinary skills, right? And some of them, I might add, did go through therapy to hone those things. So there's no shame in all of that. You look at like some of the, because I'm glad some of these athletes these days, by the way, are
Yeah.
being open about that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're being open about the fact that they go to therapy to get through depression because, man, that's a high stakes environment, man. The public is brutal, right? It's like it was before you just had to worry about your coach yelling at you. Now you got fans on the internet flaming you.
Yeah, that now that you mentioned that, celebrities and athletes, one of my favorites was Ron Artest, now known
Yeah,
as the Man of World Peace, man. When this guy won his first championship with the Lakers, like I've seen that clip over and over because he is just happy, and he credits his uh the person who was helping him out. He keeps saying his psychiatrist or whatever, but the point is he was seeing someone
yeah,
that was helping him with whatever he had going on. So that's one of the places I saw big thanks to the person that really helped them through this.
yeah,
So it is beneficial for
yeah,
people. And he had a lot of challenges, and like I said, he's just one of the persons that have overcome a lot. But you if you look left and you look right, there's a person there that has something going on. There's a
yeah,
man, there's a woman there that their life is in shambles, maybe not by personal choice, but situational. We're all, as they say here in California, one paycheck away from being homeless. And
yeah,
you
man.
it's hard times, and there's a lot of stuff to deal with. There's just a lot of expectations for people, and it's real problems that are going on. And you know what we have to offer is come talk to us, come see us, and we're going to do our best to try and help you become the best version of yourself.
Yeah,
um,
man. We because we want this next generation of men to be strong, and we want the previous generations of men to be able to have the skills and supports to acclimate to the new expectations that society has on them, while still capitalizing on their individual strengths. Because I don't know about you, man, but I find a lot of times, dude, I'll get a client that comes in and they can't name a single good thing about themselves. But
exactly.
then I'm listening to the story and I'm
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? Like, you're telling me this. And I found like 20 things I think that you're freaking awesome at. And
Yeah.
there's like, oh, I don't know. Just a bunch of low foreheads.
Yeah.
And they don't see it because society, I think, in their mind has broken them down so bad that they can't see the value in what brought them to the dance. They can only see that they got to the dance, but nobody wants to dance with them.
Yeah, I experienced the same thing. I have a client who, first thing is they try to minimize themselves or their accomplishments, and maybe it comes from a place where that's that's the way they've been treated, so they believe it. I had someone say, "Oh, I have a BA, but it's in this, so it's really not that important.
Uh,
I'm like, the important part is you got an education, you have a
mhm.
degree. And now this person was making a lot of money. They were in a place where I'm like, why do you care what your degree's on? Care about where you're at in life. You're
Yeah,
winning in life.
yeah.
Like the degree was just part of it. Like, why does it matter? So this person maybe every time they went maybe to a social setting or when they're around other people, maybe conversations come and maybe other people have degrees that are in different areas. And this person, for whatever reason, was stuck on their college degree. I'm like, I would, and I had to talk to this person and say, like, I would be worried if you had no career and you were not in a good place financially, then I would be like, all right, maybe you didn't make a right choice. But I'm like, at this point, what does it matter? Why
Yeah.
don't you just look at the success? What's going on? Look at the right things you've done in life. Look at what you've done to put yourself in a situation where you have all these choices now.
Hmm. Yeah, man. And I think it's important for people to put themselves in the right rooms in life. I mean, I'm being metaphorical, but I'm also being literal. Like, put yourself in the right rooms to meet the right people. Don't be
Right.
afraid to, like, let's say you're an entrepreneur, but you're a small business, right? But go out there to some of these conventions or go to these um, events, let's say, where like mixers or something, where you could learn something. I mean, you and I have been to those, right?
Yeah.
We've been to those, just shake hands with people. And you know what? Sometimes, let's say you walk away and you're just like, I didn't really have any good links or anything like that. However, the mental stimulation is something you can't quantify because it's like I remember the first time you and I went to an entrepreneurs event and it was like, dude, it was great. We got to meet people in other fields, but the thing is, we put ourselves in the right rooms to be like we're around hungry, eager people who want to succeed, dude. That's why. First of all, man, if look for people who haven't even checked out our office, go
Mhm.
on go on Google Maps, find out where we're at. Herman and I put in a lot of time and effort to make sure that we had a right location. Our office is nice. The location is really, really nice because we know that sometimes setting means it can affect someone's like sense of worth. Like if you're in a nice environment, you just feel better, right? Why do you think people get that like dopamine hit when they go to like South Coast Plaza or they go to like Beverly Hills to go shopping or something, right? It's just like, oh man, I'm surrounded by like just nice things. Well, our office area is nice. We knew, and we went to several places, and I remember some of them. You and I like that was the fastest U-turn ever. We're like, hell no, man. It's like our clients are gonna be depressed walking through that alleyway to come to our office. They're gonna
Yeah.
forget why they came in. They're gonna be like, oh, just walking here made me so depressed, man. And we're like, hell no, we don't want that. But so we had to like settle on some it's just little details like that, right?
Yeah.
Down to the color in the office and all that, because we're just like, no, we want to put you in the best possible position to do well in life. And it starts from the very beginning because people are visual people. Men are visual people. That's why we notice women, and women notice us in different ways, but we're visual. We see first.
Exactly. I think it's definitely, like I said, fits along with what I said earlier. Our comfort. You want to go somewhere where it's comfortable. We're gonna feel good. Where you're gonna feel like, man, this is where I need to be. This is the place where I need to be, and I need to
Mhm.
work to be.
Yeah. I mean, and again, they can go on our website, look at our office. They'll notice that our office is client centric because remember, you and I discussed like, oh, we need an office to have the area for the client to sit, a table, and then remember we talked about it was like, why the do we need a desk in there?
Yeah.
Right? No, this is not for us. You and I, man, we get better work done in public areas. Like I like just get my laptop, posting up in a coffee shop or the area that or the building we're at. There's a nice little lounge for us, which I love working there. But I like the open air atmosphere. I don't want a client coming in here thinking, well, this is like the principal's office. No, this is a therapy office. There's no desk. There's no printer. There's no hard line. We declined a hard line. No, we want it just to be a very, very safe area where the client knows it's just for them, right? Man, we got a charge port for their phone. We got all that. We want to make it comfortable because we knew that's what we would want.
Right. Exactly. So, if you've been hearing to our podcast, and you have someone, and say, hey, maybe I have someone that may need help or may need to see someone like you guys, maybe send them our way. They can try it out, give us a call. We have our information. I know our websites post
Hmm.
will be posted, and
Yeah.
you guys can definitely, reach out and see. Or if it's not for yourself, it's like maybe you know someone that knows someone. That's
Yeah.
just how it works, right? Everyone knows someone who knows someone.
Yeah. And yeah, you'll learn more about us as time goes on. We're gonna do more podcasts regularly, because like I said, this is a spinoff of the LA Sessions podcast that I run and operate. We're gonna be operating like several spin-offs, but this one is gonna be dedicated just Herman and I, our practice, and what we do, and we want to take questions from you guys too. I mean, we'd really appreciate if you subscribe to our channel, give us a like, drop us a comment, ask us a question. I mean, like Herman says, maybe you already have a therapist, but maybe you have a friend, a family member, a loved one who you would really love to see in therapy. Uh, but you're not sure how. Drop us a comment, and we'll try our best to answer. Or DM us, whatever the case may be. We're available on our social media as well, which we'll post all of that. So you'll always have a way to reach us, other than on these platforms on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. But yeah, we want to be here. We want to continue to bring up more content, and we want to hear from you guys. What do you want us to talk about? We're open. I mean, you let us talk, man. We'll talk for like 5 hours per session, if we could, but we want to keep it to about an hour. But let us know if there's certain topics you want us to discuss. We got a lot of experience. We're very enthusiastic about what we do, and so we want to be of some help to you guys.
Exactly. Reach out to us. Let us know. DM us. We'll be around. Thank you for listening, and hopefully we'll be continuing to see each other one way or another.
Yep. All right, you guys, take it easy, and we'll see you next time.
All right.